He wanted you to be his wife, and you wanted to be an old school player from the Himalayas. He was willing to be a friend when he needed one. And what were you doing? Holding that hot, heavy grudge, living on Ego Street and driving down Pride Row. The Queen Mother said, I don't even know why I called you. Brenda said, you called me because you know that if you rockin', I'm rolling. And if you wrong, I'm going to get you right. This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Poetic Justice, Part 9. When we left off, all the married people was being grown. Salima had laid down the law for Taryn Gato regarding respecting her husband and reining in his wayward daughter Hanifa. Nadia had pleaded for her son's life, and unable to convince any of the heads to see things her way, she dissented to their authority and requested to speak with her son for one last time. And Manny agreed to talk to his son as well. While it might be their only father-son conversation, he was at least willing to hear his son out. But first, he needed to have a face-to-face with his wife, Marisol. In a private room, Marisol was saying to Manny, first, let me apologize. All those years ago when I ran into Nadia in Puerto Rico, I don't even know how I knew who she was. It was something about the way that she looked at you, at us. And I don't know how I knew that she was pregnant, but I did. And I probably should have come to you and let you decide for yourself what you wanted to do. I didn't keep it from you because I was worried about losing you. It wasn't my secret to tell. Maybe I would have handled it differently if she wasn't deaf. And maybe I would have felt compelled to tell you eventually, had she not come back and told me that the baby she was carrying wasn't actually yours. I knew in my heart that she was lying. But again, it wasn't my story to tell. With all that's going on now, I can only imagine how different things would have been if you'd known, if you'd had an opportunity to be his father. If you're upset with me, we can deal with that. But we've finally gotten Bella back in our lives. Her sons are married to our babies, while Angela is in ours. You are the closest thing to a father that she has. Please, don't make her have to choose sides. Being upset with Nadia and Anand is pointless. Anand did what you would have done if you were in his shoes. And Nadia made the best decision that she could under a set of very difficult circumstances. Manny said, we agreed that there'd be no secrets between us. I have never put another woman's needs before yours. I've always taken care of you. I've given you my absolute best. I set aside my feelings for Nadia because that was what was best for my family. I chose you because I loved you. But I loved her first. I've never regretted that choice until today. Marisol was shocked, so shocked that she couldn't even respond. Manny said, you've given me 3 children and over 40 years of marriage. You've walked with me through some of my darkest times, and we've been happy. But how you slept in my bed every night, knowing that my son was out there, being raised by another man, is beyond my comprehension. Marisol, finally finding her voice and getting a little pissed off herself, said, I laid next to you every night, knowing that I was laying next to the kind of man who would choose to break a woman's heart solely so that he could carry his family's name on his back. You made a choice before I was ever even an option. You chose to leave Nadia high and dry. You chose to accept her father's no. You chose to see your father's opinions about your life is more valuable than the love that Nadia could give you. I'm willing to take responsibility for my role in keeping you from your first son. But I will not take responsibility for the choices that you made. Because if memory serves me correct, if the math is mathing, as the young people say, you were a pretty busy man at that time. You were seeing her when you were in Trinidad and seeing me when you were in Puerto Rico. And she and I were not the only ones. You had options. Nadia had none. Until Anand stepped up and did what you couldn't. He chose her. You didn't. Meanwhile, in the main meeting room, Idra and the Queen Mother were just sitting there staring at one another. Neither of them wanted to be the first one to speak. Neither wanted to let their guard down and be vulnerable. And the Queen Mother had the patience of a mother, so she was going to wait Idra out. Eventually, Idra said, you look well, Bella. I hate that we're seeing one another again under these circumstances, but it's good to see you. I'm sorry for your loss. and I'm sorry for all of the mayhem that my nephew has caused. The Queen Mother said, these children are all grown. Not one of us has the power to control what they do. Idris said, of course not. But he wouldn't have been able to cause as much mayhem as he did if I hadn't empowered him by making him my understudy. The Queen Mother said, unfortunately, it's in the game. An heir has almost as much power as a head, which is why it's so important that we choose wisely. And even more important, that we start grooming them early. Nadia and Anan never wanted Stanley to replace you. Idris said, but Stanley had approached me about it a long time ago. I'd been training him and showing him the ropes long before Nadia and Anan agreed. I should have known that he had something up his sleeve, because whenever I broached the subject with him, he'd hinted that his parents would be on board because they wouldn't want to lose him. I honestly thought that he meant he'd be upset with them. He'd stop talking to them, and they wouldn't want that. I had no idea. I couldn't have guessed in a million years that he was talking about something like this. Bella said, of course you couldn't. No one's blaming you, Idra. You've always been harder on yourself than anyone else is. Don't let Stanley's bad decisions make you and the Charles family walk away from the table. Idra said, if Stanley didn't step up to be my replacement, if Nadia and Anand didn't give the okay, the Charles family was going to be disbanded when I retired. I know it's hard for you to believe, but I never wanted to be in this life. I didn't want to have children and pass it on to them. The Queen Mother said, is that why you never married? Idra said, you know why I never married. Queen Mother smirked and just shook her head. Then she said, I won't be the scapegoat for the way your life turned out. And as awful as the things that Stanley has done are, I don't think it's fair that you make him the scapegoat for the demise of the Charles family. I believe both things can be redeemed. You just have to want them to. He just said, it all may not have turned out the way that I wanted it to. But I don't need a damn scapegoat. I have lived well. And if God called me home today, I'd have no regrets. The Queen Mother said, and neither will I. Idris said, then I guess we're done here. Got up, turned around, and walked out of the room. The Queen Mother closed her eyes and said a quick prayer, opened them back up, jumped up out her seat, and went out the door behind them. When she got to the hall, Idra was gone. She decided that that was a sign that she needed to let him go. But if she was going to get through the rest of this day, she was going to need some wise counsel. She took her phone out of her purse and called Mom Brenda. When Mom Brenda answered, she said, I was just thinking about you, Bella girl. How you holding up? The Queen Mother said, what y'all say in the South? Fair to middling. Mom Brenda just chuckled and said, what's on your mind? The Queen Mother walked out of the house and into the garden of the Lopez estate while saying, Angela thought it was a good idea to leave me and Idra in a room together so we could talk. Mom Brenda said, uh-oh, and how'd that go? The Queen Mother said, it didn't. He wanted to talk about everything under the sun. Everything except that heifer that he'd shown up to Nigel's funeral with and the lengths that he's gone to honor my Andy. Mom Brenda said, Bella girl, you about to cry? The Queen Mother said, no. Mom Brenda said, what am I missing? Then the Queen Mother told Mom Brenda all about Idra's ongoing private relationship with Donovan, the talk that he'd had with Donovan before he preached his initial sermon, and the huge anonymous donation that he'd given in Pops Andy's honor to Ron and Anya's nonprofit for the legal defense and support of members of the deaf community. Mom Brenda said, wait a minute. If the donation was anonymous, how on earth do you know that he's the one who made it? The Queen Mother said, anonymous just means that the donor's name won't be publicized or published. But legally, it can't actually be anonymous to the individuals managing the funds of the nonprofit or to the government. Regina is responsible for managing the funds, and she did not hesitate to tell me that the largest, most impactful donation to the fund was made by one Idra Charles in memory of Quincy Anders St. James III. Mom Brenda said, well, I told you that was a good man, Savannah. The Queen Mother said, and I told you that I don't care how hot or heavy a grudge is, I'ma hold it. Then the Queen Mother and Mom Brenda fell out laughing. Mom Brenda said, and that's your problem. You too damn old to be holding grudges. You kicked that man out, and now you mad because he left. What the young people call that? A crash out? You're a crash out. Queen Mother said, now you sound like Renni. Mom Brenda said, now you're acting like Renni. The Queen Mother said, well, I'll be goddamn. Mom Brenda said, don't be using my Lord and Savior's name in vain. The Queen Mother said, he's my Lord and Savior too. And it's just an expression. Mom Brenda said, well, you need to find another one. You also need to go find that man and apologize. Forgive him and work it out. The Queen Mother said, now I'm not. Mom Brenda said, you need to learn to set your pride to the side. You're a spoiled brat. And I know that's not your fault. Your father started that. And then Andy kept it going. But if you don't know nothing else, you should know by now that Idra ain't no pushover. And he didn't sign up to be your emotional punching bag either. All that man ever did was ask you to let him love you. And I declare you worse than some of these men. You have had 2 good men love you like their lives depended on it. You know what it is to be loved and loved well. Some women don't get that once. And here you are with everything that you could ever want. And the thing you need the most is the very thing you don't appreciate. The Queen Mother said, well, tell me how you really feel, Brenda. I should have called Tessa. Mom Brenda said, and she would have told you the same damn thing. To be honest, we all tired of you. We tired of this little game that you playing. We're tired of watching you break your own heart. You ain't been the same since that man left you. The Queen Mother said, he didn't leave me. I put him out, remember? Mom Brenda said, tomato, tomato. You might have told him to leave, but he got out of there like he had a dog on his heels. What the Bible say? It's better for a man to sleep on a roof than inside a house with a cantankerous wife. The Queen Mother said, that's just it. I'm not his damn wife. Mom Brenda said, and I'm with you when you're right, because therein lies the problem. That was the issue at hand, was it not? He wanted you to be his wife, and you wanted to be an old school player from the Himalayas. The Queen Mother said, no, I didn't want to be tied down again. I haven't been with anyone since Idra and I ended. He didn't hesitate to show up to that funeral. Mom Brenda said, girl, cut it out. There was no love lost between you and Nigel. You were sad, but he was grieving. He was grieving one of his closest friends. He was seeing his own mortality. You had your entire family there with you, with the exception of Donovan. I talked to Idra. The Queen Mother said, what? Mom Brenda said, I talked to Idra. I asked him why in the world he showed up to that funeral with that woman. You know what he told me? He told me that she'd called to check on him when she'd heard that his friend had died, that she brought him a casserole. Queen Mother said, he don't even eat casseroles. Mom Brenda said, that's besides the point. She brought it. She also sent flowers for the family. She flew to Miami on her own dime, called him when she got there, and asked him to let her know if he needed anything. And he did, because he needed a friend. She made herself available to him. She set aside the fact that he'd ended things with her. She set aside her own feelings to be there for him. And when the funeral was over, she got on a plane and went home. She was willing to be a friend when he needed one. And what were you doing? Holding that hot, heavy grudge, living on Ego Street and driving down Pride Row. The Queen Mother said, I don't even know why I call you. All you do is lecture me like I'm a damn child. Mom Brenda said, you call me because you know that if you rockin', I'm rolling. And if you wrong, I'm going to get you right. Now go find that man and put both of y'all out of y'all damn misery. Don't make no damn sense to be this hard-headed. Then she hung up the phone. And just as she did, the Queen Mother spotted LJ and Idra walking from the other side of the garden. When Idra had casually strolled out of the meeting room and closed the door, he then took off like a bat out of hell, down the hallway, down the side stairs, and out the back door, where he ran smack dab into LJ. LJ said, you good, man? What's up? Idra said, I'm good. I just need some space. LJ said, you out of breath, you. And before he could finish talking, Idra took off running to the garden. So LJ took off running behind him. He was shocked that the old man could run that damn fast. He said, Idra, hold up. When he caught up to him, he said, what's going on? I thought the round table was on break. Idra said, it is. It's that damn woman. Your damn sister left me in that room with that damn woman, and it took everything in me to keep my composure, to keep my hands off her. LJ said, wait a minute. Idra said, and my lips off her. LJ said, oh, she's infuriating and captivating at the same damn time. This is why I stay on the island. Just being in the same room with her gets my blood pressure up. Can you understand what I'm saying, son? LJ said, have you met my wife? Idra said, that sweet girl, she can't be that bad. LJ said, yeah, you haven't really met my wife. I don't think that it was the treatment that I got overseas that cured my cancer. I think my wife scared it away. Idra bust out laughing and said, boy, you're a fool. But I'm serious. It's like every cell in my body is awakened when I'm in her presence. She activates my fight, flight, or freeze response. My brain thinks I'm under attack, and my whole body feels like a damn magnet. LJ said, a magnet? Idris said, I'm drawn to her. She's got this gravitational pull or electromagnetic field or something. LJ said, I've never quite heard anybody describe Medea like that. Idris said, well, now you have. From the time that woman turned 15 years old and she had her coming out party, every eligible man on 3 islands was beating down her father's office door, begging for an opportunity to court her. The only reason why I wasn't one of them is because I had a responsibility to fulfill for my family first. And I knew that I couldn't approach the kingpin's daughter until I'd made a name for myself. Andy just beat me to it. Once he did, every man who'd shown an interest to that point stepped down without hesitation. Nobody wanted to compete with Quincy Anders St. James III, presumed heir of the St. James throne, for the heart of the presumed heir of the Baptiste throne. They didn't know what I knew, though. They didn't know that Andy'd passed on the opportunity. And they certainly didn't know that Andy was not going to allow his soon-to-be bride to continue her endeavor to be the queenpin. That was all inside information. I knew she had a crush on me when she was a young girl, but she was a young girl, and I wasn't quite done sowing my wild oats. I figured I'd swing back and scoop her. I could have made a play for her, but I thought she deserved a life free of violence and criminal activity. I knew that Anders was the better man. I embraced her choice and put my own feelings aside. I tried to find another woman. I wanted a wife and kids. The deeper I got into the Charles business, into the 5 families, the more I realized that it just wasn't worth trying to replace a woman who was irreplaceable, going home at night, every night, to a woman I didn't really want. And the first time I held Q in my arms, I knew that I would love Bella's children like they were my own, but I'd never have any of my own. She couldn't be their mother. If I couldn't watch her look at my children the way that she looked at hers, then any woman that I chose who had my children would have to live with the fact that she was second fiddle. OJ said, I don't mean no harm, OG, but that sounds crazy as hell to me. That's not nearly as sweet as you think it sounds. Idris said, it's not supposed to sound sweet, nigga. LJ said, well, make it make sense, because I loved women before Regina. Idris said, if you could go back in time, would you marry any of those women? LJ said, hell no. Idris said, exactly. Right now, Manny is in that house with Nadia, talking to their son, who isn't here today. LJ thought about it and said, Anon. Idris said, I never knew my sister had a thing with Manny, so I could have never known that Manny was Stanley's father. I doubted that Anon was, though, and I knew for sure that my sister was in love with another man. She loved Anon. She's always been a dedicated wife, a committed mother. The love between them is undeniable, but in her eyes, I was always able to see that something was missing. What I'm saying sounds crazy to you, because before Regina, you didn't love a woman like you love Regina. You didn't love a woman like Nadia loved Manny. And sitting across from them at that table today, I can clearly see that Manny has always loved my sister. All of the little looks and uncomfortable energy, attempts to avoid one another, all throughout the years, came rushing back to my memory when Nadia started telling her story. That story was proof that I did the right thing by not marrying and having children with another woman. I certainly could have, but she wouldn't have been Bella. I would have never been able to give her all of me, all that she deserved. If I could see that in Nadia's eyes all of these years, if I could see it in Manny's today, what do you think that Anon and Marisol have been experiencing? What do you think a woman that I would have married instead would have been experiencing? I have no doubt that Manny loves his children, and I've never doubted that he loves Marisol. But you're a man. You know, when you find the woman who makes your heart sing, it'll never be in tune for another. It's an angel,